This evening? It is a joke. Okay. Sorry about the weather. For our friends and family of the cottage school, you know about us. If you're visiting with us, we are a phenomenal school with phenomenal staff to help out. SLD, specific learning is different. It means smart kids learn different. That's what it is. So the cottage school for 34 years has taken a group of smart kids who learn differently. We teach them differently. And the list goes on of the successful stories of all the students who continue to come from this work-based model, learn not just schoolwork, but life skills to help them in the next level. So I'm proud and honored to be the head of school. I'm Dr. Steve Palmer, and we're honored to have you here today in this wonderful weather. A good friend of mine, a while back, I met Mike Bucklew, and I'm going to have Mike come up because we've got Kyle and Brett who came to hear, but I'm going to have Mike kind of introduce them. He told me he's the inspiration for them, jokingly, but he's a runner himself and runs many triathlons, and he's good friends with them. If it weren't for him, we would have this pleasure to have the Peasy brothers here today. So I'm going to turn it over to them right away. If you would, let's welcome Mike to the stage.
No, and I'm going to make mine short. They've already been teasing me that I'm going to come up here and talk about how I found these guys, which I did. But I'm just kidding. So really this night is really about, being inspired by what, Kyle and Brent have accomplished in their life. Because they're going to get up here and tell you there's greatness in every single one of us, right? There truly is. Whether you see it or you don't right now, it's in you, right? And that's what I love so much about their story. And what they've done, because they've had obstacles just like we all face in life, right? We all face obstacles as we go through life, but no matter how many times you get knocked down, you just keep getting back up. And really that's the heart of their story here for Brett and Kyle. But I do just want to share a little bit of background on both the brothers here. As you guys will find out tonight, I don't know if you're familiar with the Ironman event or not. I see a few Ironman hats out there. But Kona is kind of the mecca of the Ironman event. You have to qualify to make it there. Ironman is an event, it's a 140.6 mile event. It's a 2.4 mile swim. It's a 112 mile bike. And then it's a 26.2 mile run. So to do that just as an individual athlete alone is a huge accomplishment. I think there's some stat out there, and I may get it a little bit wrong. Maybe my fellow Ironman athletes can help me with it, but I think that it's under like 0.7% of the global population even does an Ironman, right? So the fact that that's an individual sport, and it's that small of a percentage for these brothers to do it in the way that they did, and they were the first brothers to ever go to Kona, this most recent event. I think you guys will get to see it in their slideshow tonight in the presentation, but if you haven't seen it, they crossed the finish line. If you want to be inspired, if you want to cry, if you want to believe for greatness in your life, definitely watch these two brothers cross that finish line. It is amazing what they did. But again, the first brothers to ever cross the finish line at Kona, which again is the mecca of all Ironman. You have to qualify to get there. But a little bit about Kyle. So Kyle was born here in Atlanta, Georgia, and since his birth, Kyle has constantly strived for life beyond his wheelchair. At Kennesaw State University, Kyle excelled in the sports management field. He worked on designing disabled athlete-friendly sports facilities in Acworth, Georgia, before graduating in 2008 with a Bachelor of Science in Sports Management. Kyle currently works as a liaison and an ambassador at Piedmont Hospital in Atlanta. Brent, his brother, began his road to fitness in 2007 training for a 10K. Now I will stop right here on this one. Because Brett and I were buddies. We started doing triathlons around the same time, and we lived in the same condo down in Atlanta. And I do remember, I was in the gym one day, I just come back from a triathlon in Chattanooga, I think it was. And I remember Brent asking me, he's like, hey man, I swam in college. He swam at Florida State. So he's a stud athlete, right? But he said, I'm thinking about getting in this triathlon thing. And I remember saying to him, like, I don't know, man. Swimming is like the smallest part of it. So I don't know how good you'll really be at this triathlon stuff. But yeah, sure, if you want to give it a shot, go ahead, man. Needless to say, I think the very next, 2 months later, we were in the same race again, and he beat me by 20 minutes, right? So never have I ever beat him. So that's my little history there with me so-called getting them into the sport, right? No, this has been all them, and total credit to them and their fight and their dedication to what they believed in. And really, they've kind of like changed the script and rewritten their own books, you know, as far as the sport is concerned. But for Brent, began seeking bigger goals after that 10K training, eventually completing an Ironman in 2010. Since then, he has gone on to complete 10 Ironman races, numerous 70.3s, that's the half Iron distance, Olympic distance races. Brent is a multi-sports coach with Dynamo Multisports, which you guys might be familiar with, as well as executive director of the Kyle Hughes Foundation. Brent lives in Atlanta with his wife and 2 kids, and I don't know how these two do it. We believe and are hoping, qualified for Boston yesterday, went and ran the Snickers Marathon in Albany. And then they had a big charity event last night, so we're just thrilled to have them here, you guys. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to let them take the stage. But thank you guys again for being here, and I hope and know that you will be as inspired by their lives as I have been in my life. So thank you guys again.
Show a short video here. We'll get set up.
They just go over. Very easy, you know.
That's all right. We'll come back. We'll come back to the video. That's all right. Thank you guys again for having us. It's a really special thing for us to be able to share our story, and we certainly hope that there's something you can take from it. I think a lot of what Kyle and I advocate for, which is inclusion in sports for people with disabilities, I hope that that's something you all can appreciate. But really, we'd like you to be able to take something from this talk, something that'll help encourage you, help you figure out something that you might be dealing with, or just ways that you want to increase and excel at what you're doing. For Kyle and I, that started a long time ago, trying to find ways that we could do sports together. We were telling the story earlier. You know, one of the things that used to motivate me was having my family and having Kyle at my swimming meets, at my sport competitions. And being able to look over and see them would kind of inspire me. But the hard part in that is that I could never share the pool with Kyle, that I could never share that experience with him. And so in 2010, at my first Ironman, which of course Mike completely made possible, none of that was possible without him, but at that first race, that was an eye-opening experience for Kyle, because he was watching 2,800 people compete. It was in Louisville, Kentucky in August, so it was 96 degrees with 99% humidity when I started the marathon. Brutal conditions. And so Kyle's watching all these people compete and struggle through the conditions and just, really crawling across the finish line. And that was his moment where he starts thinking, this is what I want to do. And so that really began a whole process for us. And as Mike mentioned, that culminated this past fall at the Ironman World Championships. So in Kona, Hawaii, each October, there's a 140.6 mile race, the toughest one-day endurance challenge on the planet. And 2,500 people come to compete in that. And Kyle is right there alongside the best endurance athletes in the world. Not competing because of his wheelchair, but competing because of who he is as a person. And so after completing that challenge, 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and a 26.2 mile marathon, then we all have to start calling him Kona Kyle. So now I can introduce you all to my brother, Kona Kyle.
Hello, it's an honor to be here. I'll never forget that moment in 2010 when I went to see Fred do his Ironman there. And I remember very distinctly with Fred told that he was doing the Ironman competition. I of course Googled it because you can find everything on Google, right? So I Googled it, and the first thing that came up was the Iron Man, the movie. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to see a movie, so I did a little more research. And I thought it was really cool. I thought Google did a great job of explaining it. But I'm one of those visual learners. I need to see it with my own 2 eyes. And what I saw that day was individuals, good and brave, preaching their dreams, wanting to strive to get to the finish line. And I thought, wow, this is what I go through on a day-to-day basis. I'm preaching myself, I'm fighting my body, I'm fighting the spasms. But yeah, I can still do it. And why not combine 2 things that I love, loving play and loving sports? Why not combine them? So after Greg finished his race, 12 hours, 24 minutes, and 42 seconds. And yes, those 42 seconds are very important. So when we got to after the race, we sat down, and I started peppering him with a whole bunch of questions. And the last question was, can people with wheelchairs do Ironman? And Brett's response was, yes. And how can he say no to his little brother? So that's how our journey began.
So all of this was really a lifetime of journeys and experiences for us, and it was a lot of no's. You know, how many times have you been told, no, you can't do that, or no, you can't do it this way, no, you don't do it like everybody else. And so a lot of times, Kyle and I experienced that. No, you can't swim on Brent's swim team, you can't play football with him, you can't. Or if they let us do it, they would say, you're going to do wheelchair baseball or wheelchair soccer. It's hard. We've all experienced that in some way where you've been told, no, you can't do something. And sometimes that can be hard to hear. Sometimes that can be hard to deal with. And you know, for us, you know, it was just continuing to learn, continuing to move forward, not stopping. You know, so 2010 was a really special moment for us, that it opened up a new way and new doors for us. Kyle always talks about opening a door for him can make the biggest difference in his life. It was pouring rain when he got here. Imagine if somebody didn't open the door for Kyle to come inside. He can't physically open that door. So he would have just been standing in the rain. I've done it to him before, I know. But that door that was open for us, it didn't just change Kyle's life, it changed mine. You know, how many times have you opened a door for a classmate? How many teachers here have opened doors for you? Those are special moments. And so that 2010 moment was a really special one for us. And it began a big experience. But Ironman Hawaii is the crown jewel. It's kind of like the Masters since we're here in Georgia. It's the Augusta National Triathlon. It's a very prestigious event. It's really the history of Ironman. It's where it really got its start. And so there's just this draw. When you've done your first triathlon, people that don't know the sport, they say, oh, you mean like the one in Hawaii? So now, after we finally figured out a way to say yes, after we figured out a way to kind of respond to the different no's that we'd heard throughout our life, now we had to start a new process of how do we get into the Ironman in Hawaii? How do we get to accept that challenge? So we had to start with a short triathlon, we had to start with a small one and kind of figure out the equipment, figure out how to help Kyle train. You know, this is a difficult process for somebody who sits in a wheelchair 16 hours a day. How do you get them physically ready? So for 6 years, we kept trying, and for 6 years, we kept being told no. I remember the first letter I got, I taped it up on my wall. It was a very kind letter, it just basically said, thanks for your interest, we hear wonderful stories all the time, but no, you can't do Hawaii. And it's how you respond to that, because it would have been fine for us to just say, well, we did a triathlon, we've done this, we've opened up the door for Kyle. But we wanted that opportunity. We wanted to find a way to respond to those no's and to say yes. So it looks like we've got the video working, so this is going to be a perfect transition. And we'll show you when we finally got to hear that first yes.
Brothers wouldn't go before each other. Brent pushes and pulls Kyle through 2.4 miles of swimming, 112 miles of biking, and 26.2 miles of running. Their dream is to compete with some of the best athletes in the world at the Ironman World Championship in Hawaii. 6 years of training has led up to qualifying day for entrance into Kona.
It all started with Bert. It's first Ironman in 2010. He arrived at 10 weeks, and I was amazed that not only was Bert but all the other athletes. It kind of reminded me of what I go through on a day-to-day basis.
Kyle knows what it means to overcome challenges. He has cerebral palsy and is unable to use his arms and legs. So when Kyle saw his older brother competing, he knew he wanted to do it too. The brothers started with smaller races, progressing to marathons and triathlons, but they always had their eye on the Super Bowl of Ironman triathlons.
When we did our first triathlon back in 2011, everything was preparing. There's not a clear path for people like Kyle and I to compete in Kona.
Brent trains 7 days a week, and Kyle joins them once or twice a week.
It's hard to take someone that sits in the wheelchair 16, 18 hours a day and run them through the paces of 140.6 mile race. It's not easy for anybody. You know, so that thing that motivates me in racing, one of the reasons I race is always next to me or always in front of me. And we just keep pushing the bike forward.
It's journey is so sweet because we can just stay 17 hours together. It's just a time
Brent and Kyle have always been close. Growing up, Brent looked after his younger brother, and the two have special bond.
Tom and I were also on the same team. We always change the rules around. That's what we love about Ironman, is that there's no rule change for us. Races Saturday morning, 6:30 a.m., and everybody's off for everyone.
Brent and Kyle have crossed many finish lines together, but this one is about to become their most memorable. Their finish time didn't qualify them for the World Championship, but their passion and commitment got them a spot. Kyle and Brent were awarded an Ironman Ambassador Athletes spot to Kona. Each year, select athletes are awarded this honor based on characteristics that go well beyond competition.
You get one of the best things that athletes that are going to do.
As Brent and Kyle train for the World Championship, they hope to continue to inspire other people with disabilities.
And we just want to give people hope that they can do anything they put their mind to. That's when our real journey started. We had 17 weeks from that announcement to get going. We had to make so many sacrifices for each other, for families, for jobs. But that's what we both want. We both want to hear those words that we got in the car. So October came very fast. And we trained and we really thought there. But when you get over there, I remember to get off the plane and it gets a different vibe. It gets a different feeling. It's sometimes it's time for Brett and I to really show what we're made of. And that's the dedication and the love that we have for one another, that we're going to help us propel us to the finish line. That's what we dressed up for 6 years. So it was honor. It was our time. And the best piece of advice that I've gotten in preparation for Carmen was the only person that is holding you back is you. And I thought about that. And it's true. We can do anything that we put our mind to if we believe that. And when we believe that, we can achieve it. October 13th came very quickly. And I'll never forget, I didn't sleep well the night before. Nobody really ever sleeps well before. At least that's what I hear. But I woke up at 3:45 and we didn't need to be near the pier until about 6:15. So I had a lot of time to think, why am I out here? What if we fail? What if we don't make a cut? See, one thing that I love about Ironman competitions is that Brett and I are held to the same standards as everybody else is. So we have 10.5 hours to complete the swim and the bike. And if we are 1 second off of that mark, we do not get to continue. And that's what I want. I don't want any hand down. I don't want any free passes. What we make of our lives is what we make of it. And so when we finally got to the water, it seemed like an eternity that morning. I got in the kayak and Brett swam out to calm water because a big wave right when I got in the water came crashing over me. And I was soaked. I got salt water in my eyes. I could complain all day about that, but I'll spare you the details. But when we got out to the calm water, right before the canyon went off, I don't know if Brett started to team up or if he had water in his eye. We go back and forth about that one. But Brett took my hand and said, being your brother is the best thing that has ever happened to me. And I promise that I will give you my best today. And all I ask is that you return the same thing to me. And I said, you got it, buddy. So that's one thing that I want you to take away is always give it your best. No matter what the situation is. Just remember that.
The only person stopping you is you. The only person that can keep you out of the water is you. When you've been told that you can't do something, if you start to listen to that, if you start to let that sink in, you know, for 33 years, we almost let it affect us. But we kept pushing forward. I love watching that video because the reactions that Kyle and I had, it wasn't just that we were getting that final moment that we've been waiting for. It wasn't that opportunity for us to be able to compete with the best athletes in the world. it was an opportunity to be able to finally say yes to that. So think about when somebody tells you that. Or think about how to put your best foot forward every single time. Because that's the hard part. The hard part's always moving forward. So when we got in the water in the Ironman World Championships with 2,500 of the fittest people on the planet, and that cannon finally went off, we both got shot out of the cannon. So for the swim, I tie a kayak to my waist and I pull Kyle on the boat. And he's got a bark orders at me. It's probably his favorite part of the day. And he can scream at me all day long. But it's a really special experience for us because there's a lot of trust involved. The very first triathlon we ever did, I had to keep turning around. I was terrified that Kyle was going to fall out of the boat. Because when we first started this, we said we need to go flip a boat. We need to understand what's going to happen if the boat goes over. If a wave crashes over us and Kyle goes in the water, what do we do? He'd be the first to tell you he's not much of a swimmer. So the first time we flipped the boat was back in 2011, and when Kyle came out of the boat, he fell out of the kayak, which was good. We didn't want him to stay trapped in there, and he went face into the water. And between his excitement and his spasticity, he kind of stayed there. And we pulled him up in terror, and he was spitting up water and laughing. But we kind of realized that we probably only had about 20 or 30 seconds before we could get to Kyle. So for the lead up to Kona, as Kyle said, we had 17 weeks to get ready. Kyle was part of that training process. It wasn't just that we were going to open the door and say, you get to go to Hawaii. It was that he needed to be able to get himself in the best shape of his life, to be able to compete against the best in the world. So we went out every weekend and we did something together. Whether we were running through the streets of Atlanta, riding our bike in Cartersville, going up further north of here, up to the North Georgia mountains. Kyle was a part of that. And it was really some of the best experiences that we had. You guys are all going through a journey right now with school. You guys are all experiencing things together with your parents, with your teachers. Those are some of the things that you're able to pull back from this experience. What I'm able to talk about isn't just Ironman Hawaii, but what I was able to share with my brother for that summer. So at the end of that 17 weeks, after all that training, 20 to 25 hours a week of training, 10 or 15 hours together on the weekend, it's like 2 days of school in a row. We flipped Kyle on the boat. We hadn't done it in 7 years. We did it in a pool. And as we flipped Kyle, I dove under the boat to go grab him, thinking he would be underwater. And before I could get to him, he had rolled himself over. A young man who's strapped to a wheelchair, his feet are tied down, his left arm's tied down. We pull his seatbelt super tight so he doesn't come out. Was in such good shape. He had trained so hard for this opportunity that he rolled himself over on his back. And now I was the one spitting up water and laughing at him. Think about those experiences you have. The doors that people open for you. The voice that says you can't do something, the people that tell you you can't. Can people in wheelchairs do an Ironman? Yes, they can.
So after I broke orders and went to the water to swim, we completed in an hour and 7 minutes. We had to go get on a bike. And the bike, for me, is my greatest equalizer. I shared with the students earlier that we take somebody that sits in a wheelchair all day to a bicycle. It's very challenging. So me plus thread plus our bike is about 350 pounds.
355 pounds, excuse me.
Not 354. So we started on the bike. It was good because there's a lot of crowd support in the very beginning of the bike. So we set off their energy. But you start going on a Queen Gay highway for a major chunk of the race. And that's when we got me and Brad out there, because most of the competitors were on their way back for the race. So there was our opportunity. Again, you chose more than anything in focus. And there's a little turnaround in the town hall. Hurry. That you turn around. And it's about an 8 to 10 mile climb. So we used to go about 35 miles on a quick day, and you get ready to make your climb. You go from that 30 to about 4 miles per hour. And so that's what you really have to do. And that's when you have to really rely on one another. Brett one time said that I follow his ways and he followed my spirit. And that's true, but I also follow his spirit and he followed my way. There's no irony. And when we got to that, when we started climbing, the first thing that came to my mind was a book that I read, The Widow into that curve. And the whole time that we were climbing, I kept saying, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And that chant started getting louder and louder through that prayer in him. Because I could tell that prayer was in a downward moment. So I kept getting louder. I kept saying, come on, God, push, dig, focus. And when we got to that turnaround, it's like getting out of the canyon again. And we got back to going about 20 to 30 miles per hour. But one thing that climbed so interesting is that it was just it was brotherly love and it was focusing on getting up that hill together. And that's what we did together.
So what's your Iron Man? What is it that motivates you? What is it that when you get out of bed in the morning, you get excited about? I started to learn as a young parent now that kids are actually a little bit harder than Iron Man. But there's something that drives each of us. And for Kyle and I, sports was always a huge part of our lives growing up. And so as we got older, we started to kind of lose a little touch with that. And that, sometimes that happens. But then it started to draw us back in, and we found that there was a way that we could still share those experiences together. So that Iron Man, that was ours. That was what we strived for each day. For 6 years, when we heard all those no's, that's what we were always working towards. That's what we refused to give up on. The moment in the video wouldn't have happened if we had stopped. There's something nobody really notices in the video but me, but as we're coming in on the bike, I point at the back wheel because we had a flat tire. I didn't know there was a camera. My dad was there, and I was letting him know we were coming in on the rim. The tire had gone flat about 3 miles before that moment. And I shouted some things at Kyle that I won't repeat here. But we couldn't stop right there on the side of the road. And so we tried to fix it, and we got just enough air in the tire that we made another mile, and it went flat again. But imagine if we had stopped right there on the side of the road. Imagine if we had called my dad and had him come pick us up. It was a half Ironman, so we're at about mile 54. If we had gotten picked up on the side of the road. You still have to finish that race. For us to get that golden ticket, we had to still finish the race. So imagine if you give up on the things that drive you, on your Ironman. So when you have that moment, you're thinking, this is too hard, I can't do this anymore, I can't hear no one more time. Find a way to say yes to that moment. Climbing up to the town of Hawaii was one of the hardest parts of the day for us. What makes Hawaii such a difficult Ironman is that it's the conditions. The distance is hard. Our bodies aren't meant to go 140.6 miles of racing like that. But it's the conditions in Hawaii. It's hot, it's windy, there's nothing but lava rock everywhere. So climbing up, the wind is slamming into us. And Kyle's mentioned it, we were watching our speed drop all the way down to 4 miles per hour. And we had to make this cutoff. Because if you don't make those cutoffs that Ironman has, you're done. They take you off the course. And there's a legendary story in our house when Kyle was playing his first wheelchair baseball game. The league was set up for everyone to experience the game of baseball. So everybody ran the bases, everybody scored. Nobody got thrown out. It was just an opportunity for people in wheelchairs to experience baseball. The problem was Kyle understood the game of baseball pretty well. So in the very first game, he got thrown out at first, and he turned his wheelchair and he went to the dugout. And the umpire tried to call him back out on the field. And he shook his head and said, "That's not how you play." And so to this day, we still say that Kyle's the only wheelchair athlete to ever get thrown out of a baseball game. So I promise you, if we had missed that cutoff in Hawaii, even if I tried to beg to stay out there, Kyle would have said, "That's not how you do Ironman." You want that challenge, you want that journey, you want to experience those moments. Because that's where you find the joy in that. Of not letting that flat tire stop you from what your ultimate goal is. And the reward for climbing all the way up the Hawaii, like Kyle said, was coming down at 30, 35 miles per hour, screaming into the wind at each other, pointing at the Pacific Ocean and telling Kyle to look, in the middle of all this pain, telling him to just look at the ocean. We were in the Ironman World Championships together. It wasn't just the 6 years, it was 33 years together, trying to figure out how we could share that, how we could find our guests, how we could open up the doors for each other. And of course, the best part is when you finish the bike in an Ironman, the reward is you get to run a 26.2-mile marathon after all that. And I remember sitting there looking at Kyle. We're competing with the best athletes in the world. I said, "Do you want to do this?" And he looked up at me and he said, "Yes." And I said, "Then get in the wheelchair, let's go."
And we were off. And in the Ironman world that we give, the physical challenge athletes have to have a safety line. In our life, we're very bright. But one thing that we forgot to do was charge it the night before. So our light ran out with about 45 minutes into the marathon. And then it started to get dark. And then it started to rain. And by rain, I mean probably about 3 times harder than what it was when y'all came in today. And for that brief moment, I said, "I'm done. There's nothing else that I can do. I just want to get warm, get back in my everyday wheelchair, and go back to the hotel." And then I had to talk myself out, because that's not who I am, that's not who we are. And I had to take a step back for a second and realize that anything is possible when you put your mind to it. So once I wrapped my head around that, I was back in the game, and I had to focus on the next step that Brett took, on the next mile. And then once we got to that mile, focus on the next mile. And the best part was at the very end, when we came down to finish the shoot. And for those of you that have done the endurance race, there's a red carpet. And this guy was a magic red carpet. Your feet get a lot lighter. My wheels, it feels a lot smoother on me. And when we got there, I remember our coach saying, "Enjoy the moment." years of people saying no. We found a way to say yes. So I think we have a video of the finish line.
So there's a famous announcer in Ironman, his name's Mike Riley, and everybody wants to hear Mike call out your name. And so for all these years of going through these experiences together, we wanted to hear Mike call us out on the finish line. And he has a famous phrase, I think he's probably got a few trademarks on it. And as we're coming down that red carpet, all of a sudden you start feeling yourself floating. Because now all the things that you struggled through in your Ironman have suddenly become worth it. You forgot the moment you wanted to quit when the rain started coming down. You forgot the moment when going up the hill was so painful that you wanted to just get off the bike. And as we're coming up the chute, they have this huge ramp that you go up. And you come up to the top of the ramp, and then Mike Riley's voice booms out, and he almost starts laughing with joy. And he says, "Ho ho, Kyle! You are an Ironman." And all the no's evaporate. And all the moments of adversity disappear. And I had a front row seat, and I looked down at my brother, Kona Kyle, an Ironman world champion athlete. Less than 1% of the people on the planet can claim that title. And my brother showed me what was possible. Find your possible. Find your way to say yes. And don't ever give up. Thank you all for having us and letting us be a part of this wonderful school and everything that you share with the community and with each other. Thank you all so much.
Outstanding. What a phenomenal story. We are so privileged to have him here. I went on a couple times. Phenomenal inspiration to all of us. And as they continue to talk, it's like, puts things in perspective. You know, life is tough, but there's not a challenge we can't get through. It's the spirit. It's the spirit inside. So, again, blessed to have these brothers here with us. And at this time, I'm going to open it up for some Q&A, so I'm going to walk around, hand you the mic, and they have graciously accepted to take some questions from you. So if you'd like to ask these phenomenal brothers questions, raise your hand. All right, here we go.
How many competitions have you both completed?
We have done 4 Ironman together, and we have done Calvary's 7.3s, and together we have run over 1,000 miles together.
Brett and Kyle, I'm a little older than you guys, and I've had multiple times in my life where I did not think I could carry on with whatever it was. It might have been a fitness thing, it might have been something at work, a relationship. What is it with the quality of the achievement that you guys are here and discussing and attaining? How you had to go through multiple times when you felt like you just could not carry on. What did you do to get through that?
That's a wonderful question. For us, you know, it started with our parents, you know, and we had this example in our house, and it would have been very easy for my parents, you know, from a very early age to just let Kyle be somebody that was defined by his wheelchair. And so for us, that's always been the thing that we're able to hold on to that kind of helps keep us moving forward. And Kyle and I have taken it a step further, obviously, with what we've accomplished in the last few years, and we've used those lessons throughout. And so I think each of us, you know, as you go through those tough times, as you have adversity in your life, you start to learn. Somebody said it to me in a way like this, is that none of us get out of this unscratched. We all get cut at some point in our life. And so you start to learn some of those tools of how you address it, about how you handle those things that come up. You know, Kyle and I were talking about it with the track and cross country teams earlier. Kyle likes to start at the top. He likes to hold things as positive as possible, that everything's going to be good. And I like to start at the bottom. And so for what we do, it's nice because at some point we'll meet in the middle. But I think really, you know, it's up to each individual to kind of figure out what it is that you can hold on to that helps you keep moving forward through all of those things. And I think you can probably think through some of those times in your life when, you know, when it felt like it was as dark as it could possibly be, and what you learned in those moments, and so that as each time beyond that came up, you're a little bit more, you're a little bit better equipped to handle that.
I think I can think for me that adversity has really helped me to become who I am. Because look, we all go through it. We all have those dark moments. And if you don't have those dark moments, then no one will meet you. But we all go through something. If we go through something that makes you strong, and it resonates with you, and you learn from your mistakes, and you learn not to give up, and focus on how to get. So for me, it's adversity and tackling it head on.
So I think we got the video. I would love to just show you guys the finished video, because it was really, you can see how special that crowd was and how special the moment was for us.
That's really amazing. Amazing. You guys okay to take a few more
Yeah,
questions?
absolutely.
What brand is the bike?
That's a very wonderful question. It's made by a company called Freedom Concepts. So they're based out of Winnipeg, Canada. And they make bikes for people with disabilities. And when we found them, they were actually largely focused on just helping people get active. So very similar to the baseball league that Kyle played in. And we came to them with this idea of doing an Ironman. And so we've actually been working with them for 6 years. So the very first Ironman that we did, the bike and me and Kyle was actually 400 pounds. So over the course of 4 years, and when we started our Ironman process, they helped us figure out how to get 35 pounds off the bike and help us build a bike for the conditions in Kona. So they're a really special partner for what we do with the Kyle Pease Foundation, and we actually own 5 of those bikes. So if you want to come ride one with us sometime, I'll let you push Kyle instead of me.
So I have 2 questions. I'd love to hear a little more about your training schedule. I think you mentioned you train 7 days a week. Kyle trains with you 3 times a week. I'd love to hear a little more what that's like. And then I would love to hear more about the Kyle Pease Foundation and why you all set that up and how people might be able to help you there.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit more about the foundation. So, Ironman, 7 days a week to get ready for Kona is really what it takes. And it's finding 20 to 25 hours a week minimum for me. But like we said, it was really important for Kyle to be a part of this process with us. Number one, because he needs to be a fit athlete as well. But number two, it really takes away from his experience if I just say, well, I'm the engine, you just show up on race day and motivate me. So typically for me, what that looks like is my easy day is Monday when I only have to swim. And then Tuesday was strength run and then a bike after all that. usually about 75 minutes apiece for each, the strength, run, and bike components. Then Wednesday mornings was usually a 2.5 to 3 hour bike session with a really hard run off the bike for about 30 minutes. And then I'd hop in the pool after that and swim for about 45 minutes. So that was just Monday through Wednesday. Thursday was a light-ish day where I ran twice, once in the morning and once after dinner. And then Friday I got a break where I only had to swim about 5,000 meters, 4,000 to 5,000 meters in a pool. The Ironman swim is close to 4,000 meters, so effectively every Friday I swam at least the length of an Ironman. And then Saturday and Sundays when Kyle and I would join together and do something. So Saturday was usually a bike ride and a run for us both together, and then Sunday we would just go out for a run. So Saturdays was really the day we look forward to. And our biggest day, we did one day up in Cartersville where we rode for 7.5 hours and then ran. And then our favorite was when we went up to the North Georgia Mountains. So for any of you cyclists or even runners, or if you've hiked on the Appalachian Trail, there's some wonderful biking up there. It was near impossible for us to be able to take Kyle up there for a long time because it's 2-lane rural roads. So we got to go up there with Kyle because we had so much support for Kona. We had 8 people. We had like protective cyclists. We had follow vehicles, and then Kyle, we had like our own Tour de France assembly line, you know. And so we got to, and it's some of the hardest biking in Georgia. So that was a really fun day. So that's, you know, I want to go do another Ironman again with him because of that. You know, the Ironman was just...
Don't tell him like that, man. I would love to do another one too. So. And I'm glad that you brought up the Coyote Foundation. The Coyote Foundation was started in 2011 with the mission to improve disabled individual lives through sport. And today we have helped over 100 families start and finish their own races. That's anywhere from a 5K all the way to an Ironman. And I wanted to start because I wanted to give back. I wanted to in a way, give to others what they may not have. And I just love seeing all the families that we have met. And I remember one of the best things that we heard going into Kona was from one of my athletes that said, when you're in the world championship, we're all in the world championship. And so just to hear that, and just to say that, just gives me goosebumps. So this, in 2 weeks from today, the Coyote Foundation will have 62 athletes in the Georgia Public Half Marathon. So you don't have anything to do, and you would like to come in and see what it could look like, then March 17th is your day.
So at the root of what we do is create opportunities of inclusion. And so we kind of joke about the baseball league for Kyle, but that was a really special experience for him growing up. And now we're able to show people with disabilities what a real inclusive experience looks like in sports. You know, that Ironman event is incredibly difficult for Kyle to go through. The fact that he's telling stories about how he wants to quit in the middle of the race, I think shows just how physically demanding it is on his body. And it's the same experience for the people, kids and adults that we are able to serve. So you can learn more at kylepeacefoundation.org, and there's lots of ways to help. You can come ride bikes with us. You can come help push wheelchairs, or just support us through the efforts of everything that we need, volunteer, and time, talent, treasure is what we say we really need when it comes to supporting the Kyle Peace Foundation.
A few more questions.
Since you crushed the Ironman, what's your next big competition?
Thank you for using the word crush, that's a great word. We'd like to think we're running out of goals, but as Mike mentioned, yesterday we ran a marathon and qualified for Boston. So I'm actually, now that I have to call him Kona Kyle, I'm going to make him start calling me Boston Brent. You know, I think that there's still certainly some goals out there. While Kyle and I are physically capable of doing this, there is a record for a number of Ironmans completed for somebody like us. There are some big goals. We found something that really speaks to us, and Ironman is that thing. So just maybe like a Major League Baseball player that does it for 20 years, we'd like to keep seeing, you know, how much more we can do, how much more we can inspire through our actions, and help the foundation grow through that. So you look like you're ready to come crush an event with us, though.
Any questions?
How many miles would you say you run each week?
Can you repeat that
How
one?
many miles do you run a week?
How many miles would you say you run each week?
Well, during the training run for Ironman, we probably do about, I would say about 20 to 30 miles a week. We got to a competition. But in my wheelchair that you see me in, I probably go about 50 to 75 miles a week.
A lot.
I have a question. Do you fight a lot? Because, you know, two brothers together, so close. Now you're adult. When you were younger, did you fight a lot?
So the cross-country team heard a little bit about this. In 2015, we were doing the New York City Marathon, and one of our wheels shattered. I tried to carry Kyle by tying the wheelchair to my shoulder. And eventually 2 strangers stopped their race and ended up helping us. And around mile 18, I kind of looked around and said, we're not really doing this. And so I told Kyle I wanted to stop, that I didn't think there was any reason to keep going. And he told me that I could quit, but he was going to finish. And so that created quite a bit of tension between us, because I said, you don't know how hard this is for me, and what he's saying is, you don't know how hard this is for me. So I think to answer your question, though, you know, we're still brothers, and we have a lot of brotherly moments out there. So there's times where we've screamed and yelled at each other. There's times where we've just stopped and hugged and held each other to kind of remind each other that we ended up doing this together. Growing up, I had such a protector's mentality of Kyle. He probably would have liked to have fought with me, you know, to maybe feel a little bit more normal, but all I wanted to do was try and help him. So we've certainly fought a little bit, but I think a lot of the fighting we do together.
As I have a question.
Yeah.
As trained athletes, in condition, obviously we train every day, eating too. I mean, eat healthy. But what I want to know is we have a cheat day. Something that's bad. What do you guys, what's your bad food that you like? Both of you.
Well, I eat like a 5-year-old, so I love the McDonald's and the hot wings and French fries and you name it, I love it. So every day is kind of a cheat day when I'm not in training. But yeah, I would say all of those.
Make it easy.
You know, the best part about Ironman is that, you know, in an Ironman competition, you're going to burn between 10 and 12,000 calories on average. So usually for an Ironman, we pack Skittles, baked potatoes, Uncrustable sandwiches. So at least on race day, we can eat as much junk food as we want, because whatever's going to sustain us for 14 and a half hours of racing is what we need. So, but otherwise, if you go out with Kyle, you'd look at him and go, that is not a model of athletic.
I tell you what, just the race alone is phenomenal. Both of you doing it together, the strength that you both have growing up, and you continue to inspire many people. Again, go to the PZ Foundation, check them out. They're world renowned. They're famous, and you can see the things that they produce, the videos. So, can you put your hands together? Let's tell them thank you very much for being here. Yes. Thank you. Our college school swag. Come here, you got a college school swag. Purple. Plus, we do have a gift and a check for the foundation.
Thank you, guys.
We're very honored to have them. Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you to the department who put this on for us, put this together, and also thank you to Tim Weber who connected us, and Mike who inspired them to do what they do. Have a good evening. Be safe. Thank you, guys.